するぞ。よっちゃうってしてザックするぞ。
He isn't holding a standard issue army. He's gripping a Winchester Model 70, a sporting rifle, a deer hunting gun. 42 yards away, Japanese infantry are moving toward him. He can hear their boots sucking in the mud. He has 2 rounds in the magazine, but there are 6 men coming to kill him. Actually, he shouldn't be here. He should be back at the command post, listening to his superior officers laugh at his toy rifle. That's what they called it. A mail-order sweetheart, a civilian plinker. But right now, that toy is the only thing standing between John George and dying in the mud. 23 seconds. That's how long he has until they see him. Suddenly, a Japanese soldier steps up to the edge of the ditch, right beside him. He was looking straight at him. Their eyes meet. And then... To understand why a 27-year-old officer was hunting men with a deer rifle, you have to look at the numbers. The M1 Garand is a beautiful weapon. Semi-automatic, 8 rounds, reliable. But in 1943, it had iron sights. At 300 yards, a man's head is the size of a pin. John George knew this. Back in Illinois, he was a state champion marksman. He knew that you can't hit what you can't see. So when the 132nd Infantry Regiment shipped out, George didn't pack standard issue. He packed his own money. He bought a Winchester Model 70. He fitted it with a Lyman Alaskan scope. He requested it be shipped through military mail. When he opened that crate in the supply tent, the armorer looked at him like he was insane.
Is this from deer or Germans, Lieutenant?
Captain Morris, his commanding officer, told him to leave the sporting rifle in his tent and carry a real weapon. He ordered George to carry the Garand. George disobeyed. Why? Because of what happened on January 19th. The 132nd had relieved the Marines at a place called Point Cruz. The terrain was a nightmare. Coconut groves, massive banyan trees with trunks 8 feet thick. And in those trees were sniper ghosts of Japan. On January 19th, Corporal Davis was filling canteens at a creek. A single shot rang out, and Corporal Davis was no more. Before, on January 20th, 2 men from L Company died on patrol. On January 21st, 3 more, shot through the neck. The battalion was bleeding to death. 14 men in 72 hours. They fired thousands of rounds into the trees. They hit nothing. The Japanese snipers were invisible. They picking off Americans like deer. That night, the battalion commander summoned George. The laughing stopped. The mockery was gone. He looked at George, exhausted, desperate, and asked one question.
Can that mail-order gun actually hit anything?
George didn't blink.
6-inch groups at 600 yards, sir.
The commander gave him until dawn. 9:17 a.m., January 22nd. George is alone. No spotter, no radio. Just a canteen, 60 rounds of .30 hunting ammo, and a rifle they told him not to bring. He is sitting in the ruins of a Japanese bunker, watching a banyan tree 240 yards away. Insects. The clothes. His water. Through the lion's skin, the muscle. Sweat is stinging his eyes, but he doesn't wipe it. Then, movement. 60 yards north. The second sniper is climbing down, trying to run. George tracks him, leads the target. The second man falls back. 2 shots, 2 kills. But George doesn't stop there. He waits, takes the shot, and by noon he'd taken out 5 Japanese snipers. 5. The entire battalion hadn't killed one sniper in 3 days. Only one man with a toy rifle just cleared the sector. But here is where the story shifts. 3:57 p.m. George kills his 6th sniper. A hard shot, 290 yards out. But this time, there's a response. Mortars. They aren't shooting at random anymore. They've triangulated his muzzle flash. The first shell lands 40 yards short. The second, 20 yards. They're bracketing him. They're doing the math. George grabs the Winchester and sprints. He dives into a shell crater just as his previous position, the bunker, disintegrates in a cloud of dirt and shrapnel. He lies in the mud, chest heaving. He realizes something terrifying. They know who he is. They know there is a hunter in the trees. And now, they are hunting him back. George walks back into the command post. He is covered in sweat and cordite dust. Captain Morris is waiting. George reports the kill. Captain Morris looks at the Winchester, then at George.
How many left?
6, sir.
Yesterday, Morris had laughed at the mail-order rifle. He had called it a toy. Today, he doesn't laugh. He stares at the bolt handle of the Winchester. He stares at George's hands. The mockery is gone. In its place is something else. Respect. Or maybe fear. Be back in position at dawn, Morris says. January 23rd began with rain. Heavy tropical rain that turned the jungle floor into mud and made the trees invisible beyond 100 yards. George sits in the captured Japanese bunker. He hugs the Winchester to his chest, protecting the scope with his body. Water kills optics. If moisture gets inside the lens, the hunt is over. He waits. 8:15 a.m. The rain stops. George lifts the rifle. He wipes the lens. He settles the stock against his shoulder. He begins the grid search. Today with new location. He spots sniper number 7. A mistake in camouflage. A patch of uniform that doesn't match the leaves. George fires. 7 down. 15:41 p.m. Sniper number 8. This one is positioned high, 94 feet up a banyan tree. It's a perfect spot at noon, but the sun moves. At 16:23 p.m., George fires. At number 8, down. As the afternoon light shifts, the sniper's silhouette is cast against the bright sky. He is a black cutout against the blue. George puts the crosshairs on the silhouette. 9th down, 1700 hours. He reports to Morris. The numbers are clinical. 12 rounds fired, 9 kills, 3 misses. Morris nods. Go again tomorrow. That night, George sits in his tent. He strips the Winchester down to its springs and pins. He cleans the mud from the trigger group. He oils the bolt, and he does the math. Intelligence confirmed 11 snipers operating in the Point Cruz sector. George has killed 9. 2 remain. The 2 men left out there, they aren't lucky. They are the best. They have watched their friends die. They know George's tactics. They know his rhythm. Next day, January 24th. George is sweating against the rocks. Through the Lyman scope, he spots target number 10, a Japanese soldier, sitting in a palm tree 190 yards out. But something's wrong. The target is low, only 40 feet off the ground. Too easy. Most snipers climb for the stars to get the best angle. This guy is sitting on a platter. George starts to squeeze the trigger. Then he stops. It's bait. He's killed 9 men in 3 days. The enemy isn't stupid. They wouldn't leave a man that exposed unless they wanted George to shoot him. George lowers the rifle. He ignores the easy kill. He starts scanning the empty trees around the palm. He checks every branch, left to right, top to bottom. 11 minutes pass. Then he sees it. The real threat. 80 yards northwest of the bait, a massive banyan tree, 90 feet up. The second sniper is buried in vines, watching the palm tree. He's waiting for a muzzle flash. The second George shoots the bait, this guy will put a bullet in George's head. George does the math. If he waits, they find him. If he shoots the banyan sniper first, the sound gives him away before he can cycle the bolt. He decides to flip the script. He swings the rifle back to the bait in the palm tree. He exhales. Crack. The soldier in the palm jerks and falls. George doesn't watch him land. He rips the bolt back and swings hard to the northwest. Up in the banyan, the real sniper hears the shot. He turns his head toward the sound. That movement is all George needs. He finds the shape. The second body tumbles through the canopy. 2 seconds, 2 shots, 2 kills. But the echo is ringing through the valley. Every Japanese soldier in the groves knows where he is now. George doesn't check his work. He tries and grabs his ammo and runs. Now he's not safe. A Japanese recovery team, infantry, not snipers, is moving through the brush to collect the bodies. George dives into a drainage ditch. It's filled with rainwater. He sinks down. The water is cold, filthy. It covers his chest, his neck, his chin. He holds the Winchester straight up, keeping the action dry. He counts the voices. 1, 2, 3, 6. At least 6. He has 2 rounds in the rifle. The rest of his ammo is in his pack, which he left behind at the rocks. Suddenly, the footsteps stop. A Japanese soldier steps to the edge of the crater. He looks down. He sees George. Their eyes meet. There is no time for language, no time for surrender. The recoil slams into his wet shoulder. The soldier drops instantly. George works the bolt underwater. Now he stands up. 2 more soldiers rushing the rim. Again, 2 seconds. 2 shots. 2 kills. But now, the rifle is empty. He scrambles out of the crater, slipping in the mud. Bullets are snapping past his ears. Zip, zip, zip. They aren't aiming anymore. They're just pouring fire into the zone. He sprints. Not a tactical retreat, a run for his life. Then he dives for cover. Silence returns. George waits. But now, Japanese soldiers don't follow him. They've seen enough death for one morning. George walks into the American perimeter. He walks straight to Captain Morris's tent. He is covered in mud. He smells like swamp water and cordite. He gives his report.
11 snipers confirmed, sir. 3 infantry. I'm out of ammo.
Morris doesn't ask if the rifle is a toy. He doesn't ask if it's for deer. He recommends George for a Bronze Star. George cleared the jungle. He saved hundreds of American lives. He proved that marksmanship matters. John George didn't just kill snipers. He taught the U.S. Army a lesson they are still learning today. It's not the weapon that makes the soldier. It's the man behind the trigger. In 1947, George decided to write down what had happened. The book was published in 1947 under the title Shots Fired in Anger. It became a classic among firearms enthusiasts and military historians. The book described George's experiences on Guadalcanal and Burma with clinical precision. Today, that Winchester Model 70 sits in a glass case at the National Firearms Museum in Virginia. Most people walk right past it. It looks like an old hunting rifle, just wood and steel. But if you look closely, you can see the scars on the stock. You can see where the Guadalcanal humidity ate at the finish. It is silent now. George survived the war. He went to Princeton. He became a diplomat. Lieutenant Colonel John B. George died on January 3rd, 2009 at age 90. Tell us, serve? Drop their name and unit down below. You're not just a viewer, you're part of keeping these memories alive.
精准预测了一次误差不超过30秒，这就是玛雅文明的神秘之处。一个没有铁器、没有模子的古代文明，却能建出让现代建筑师看了直摇头的金字塔，而且石缝之间不用任何砂浆，插不进去一张纸，四面的角度精确到东南西北对齐。更诡异的是，他们的天文台建造方向精确对准了金星的运行轨迹，而玛雅人从未用望远镜看过星空。那么问题来了，他们又是怎么知道这些知识？又为什么在鼎盛时期突然集体消失，留下几百万人的空城？答案可能比你想象的更多。先说这个被瓦烂的灭亡2012年12月21日，全世界有人躲进地下室，有人卖掉房子，有人写好遗书。但玛雅学者早就说清楚，那天只是玛雅长历法一个纪元的结束，相当于你家日历翻到最后一页。它的意思不是世界要毁灭，而是新的一轮开始。这个谣言是怎么传出来的？一半是西方媒体炒作，一半是人类自己吓自己。玛雅人自己留下的石刻有大量记录2012年之后几百年事件的预言，说明他们压根没打算让世界在那天结束。但真正让科学家睡不着觉的，不是末日预言，而是玛雅人的历法系统。他们同时运行3套历法，一套260天的宗教历法，一套365天的太阳历，还有一套长达5125年的长历法。3套历法咬合运转，精度高的离谱。他们测算出的金星周期是584天，现代天文学测出来是583.92天，误差不到0.02%。没有任何光学仪器，没有计算机，就靠肉眼观测和代代相传的数据积累，算出这个结果。你要知道，哥白尼提出日心说的时候，玛雅天文学已经成熟运转了将近1000年。再说那座金字塔，墨西哥尤卡坦半岛的库图尔可说，每年春分和秋分这2天，下午4点左右，阳光斜射在台阶边缘，会投下一段波浪形的阴影，从塔顶一路蜿延到塔底，和底部石雕的石头完美衔接，活像一条巨蛇从天而降，沿着台阶爬下来。这个光影效果持续大约45分钟，然后消失，1年只出现2次，精确到分钟级别。要设计出这个效果，建造者必须提前精确计算好太阳在那2天这个时间点的入射角度，然后把整个建筑的朝向、台阶的坡度、边缘的弧度全部反推出来，再用没有任何金属工具的石器一块一块的垒。现代建筑师拿着电脑软件复盘这个设计，结论是换他们来做未必能做得更好。那玛雅人的知识从哪来的？目前最准确的答案是2个字：观察。玛雅人是人类历史上最执着的天文观测者之一，他们几乎把所有精力都砸在了看星星这件事上。他们建的天文台窗口方向不是随便开的，每一个开口对应的都是特定星体在特定日期升起的地方。他们用几代人的时间积累数据，用数学做校对，误差一代代缩小，最后得出了一些让现代人没有外星人，没有神秘力量，就是时间加耐心加聪明的大脑。但问题来了，这么强大的文明为什么消失了？公元800年前后，玛雅文明进入了鼎盛期，城市人口更多的地方超过10万人，道路网络连接各个城邦，贸易往来频繁。但就在这之后不到200年，大量城市被彻底废弃，人去楼空，丛林重新把建筑分裂。几百年后，西班牙人到来时，很多城市已经完全被植被覆盖，根本不知道下面来的一个人。科学家给出的答案不是一个，而是一串叠加的灾难。古气候学家通过分析洞穴石笋里的同位素数据，还原出了公元800年到 经历了至少3次严重干旱，最长的一次持续了将近1个世纪，没有水，农业崩溃，粮食断供，人口大量死亡或迁移。与此同时，各城邦之间的战争在这个时期急剧增加，考古挖出的骸骨显示大量暴力死亡的痕迹，饥荒加战争叠在一起，足以摧毁任何一个国度。所以，当你下次抬头看星空的时候，想想玛雅人，他们能算出几百年后的日食，能建出让现代人摇头的金字塔，却算不出明天还有没有水喝。这就是人类永远在仰望星空和脚踏实地之间的不同。而那些刻在石头上的星图，比任何末日预言都更值得我们记住。
Here we go again. They've scanned the Giza Plateau and they think they found the second Sphinx. I know. At first I was like, no, we've debunked all the second Sphinx rumours and theories. That's not happening. But then I watched Filippo Biondi be a guest on the Matt Beal Limitless podcast, and he explained his evidence. He explained the scans, and I'm not gonna lie, I think there's something to it. Okay, so this is a Google image, like from above, of the plateau. This, on the end of row B, is where the current Sphinx is. That's the middle pyramid. C is the right pyramid, and then A over there is where they have located on the scans lots of underground shafts and vertical shafts and horizontal corridors that match the corridors and shaft pattern found under the current Sphinx. And not only that, but it is exactly mirror image flipped parallel to where the current Sphinx is. And there's a whole lot of maths that just maths like precisely out, like the exact length of B from like the Sphinx to the middle pyramid, and from A to the Great Pyramid is exactly the same. And there's like a calculation of the height or the length of one side of the pyramid that correlates exactly in this sort of like, there's just a lot of maths that's saying if there was going to be a second Sphinx, mathematically it would actually be here. So currently in that location that like the maths is pointing to and where they scanned, there's currently just like a big mound, which is apparently 55 meters tall, so it's not a small mound. There could be something under there, and this is not bedrock, and this is not loose sand. I think it's like fortified sand or something. It's like pretty hard sand, but there could be something under this mound that's making the sand stick there. Okay, here's where it gets spicy. This is the SAR topography scan of underneath that mound in that location, and it shows very clearly a almost hollowed out centre to that mound, and then 3 separate vertical shafts going down, and the one at the very front going very deep. And you can't see it on the scan, but he was saying on other angles there are also horizontal passageways. So not only is there vertical shafts, there's horizontal passageways, and these shafts and the passageways mirror what they have scanned on the actual Sphinx. And why I also think this particular location possibly could be a tick, and it's tipping me a little bit into the maybe this is real, is that this over here, that little box, is the Tomb of the Birds, which we know is a actual entrance to an underground cave system that is on the Giza Plateau, that has been explored by loads of people, but I think it was found by Andrew Collins in like the 2000s. And yeah, Tomb of the Birds, and it's literally like a stone's throw from that location. So if there is an entrance to a Giza underworld there, it makes sense that it's right by the, do you know what I mean? And the other one, and the other Sphinx right by the Osiris shaft. Do you know what I mean? And here's just a little example of like shafts and cut bedrock and who knows what that could be hiding underneath these mounds of like solidified sand. Now, the only reason why anyone was looking for a second Sphinx is literally because of the Dream Stela, which was a stela that was in front of the original Sphinx, but not from the Old Kingdom, it's from the Middle Kingdom, like 18th dynasty, so it's from a later dynasty. But it shows this sort of like parallel sphinxes. And there's always been a debate about, is it showing literal parallel to sphinxes, or is it just metaphorical, or like esoteric, or like you know what? Because you could argue it both ways quite well, because the dude here is the pharaoh Tutmos, and so there's two Tutmoses. So, and there was only one pharaoh, as far as we know. Could have been a twin. So then they're saying that there's two Tutmoses, so it's just being pretty. But if there was a second sphinx, they actually would be facing the right way, because you've got this one, which is down here for the middle pyramid, and you've got this one facing that way for the Great Pyramid. And if it's not just a pretty piece of art or like symbolic that they are sitting on top of chambers that go down, if they both do, then actually this was just a literal like photograph after all. So we don't know. What do you think? Where do you sit on this? Let me know. Just to say, if you are still a bit on the fence about whether or not the SAR scanning technology is legit or accurate, they scanned the Great Pyramid, which we know very, very well, which has recently been scanned by a totally different company, different tech, where they found the void. And anyway, this is the SAR results of that. They accurately mapped the subterranean, the Queen's Chamber, the King's Chamber, the void that the other company had found independently, and the corridor that was recently, a couple of years ago, found by drilling a hole and looking with a camera. So we know it's definitely there. So if they could pick up the void and the corridor and, like, do you know what I mean? Let's give it a conservative, it's at least 50% accurate of what we're looking at. Then that means that there is something under.
经典的炸街 DJ 经典舞曲，各位老司机做好准备，一起来听听看这些歌，你都有听过吗？第一首新动态。
来了喽！又是跟哥们弟做朋友啊，跟你。哎，这个东西是 physics 来的，不是 fetish，OK？Last G-Y morning，这样上来就是上来，没有那种跟你那里面。